Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are finally here. We are halfway through the spring split here in the LEC, and what better way to finish the first half by covering the last two teams to feature in an Anarchy analysis. It's going to be the 0-9 Team Vitality facing off against the 2-7 SK Gaming in what I consider a vital match for either of these two teams to make a surge for the playoff spots here in the LEC spring split. So let's jump straight into the ban phase, starting with Vitality's first ban in the Karthus. I like this ban a lot because Trick played it yesterday, and it leads me to believe Vitality don't have a proper counter for it like OG did in that Nidalee. So this champion getting banned out here is very, very good. It obviously limits that amount of damage that can be done in team fights to a considerably low amount, considering that R is not just going to be pressed by a champion to win a fight. Very, very nice thing. As for their last two bans, they ban out the Rakan and Yuumi, two very, very strong supports in the current meta. And I like that Rakan ban especially because it answers SK's ban of the Aphelios quite well, and it kind of leads me to believe that Xayah is not that big of a priority anymore for any team. Aphelios, Soraka, and Ornn were banned out here by SK. Aphelios is that S-tier top ADC, who's very, very strong in the recent meta, very, very good at damage dealing, and very, very effective. Soraka, again, is a 10.3 champion who has that high amount of healing, is essentially a secondary support for your team that can provide a lot of heals. Obviously, is going to be a lot more of a preference for teams to pick up in this matchup if Karthus is banned, because that ult that heals everyone negates that heal damage from the Requiem. So with one of them gone, the other really needs to be gone so that there's not an advantage on either side. And SK's last ban is that Ornn, which I absolutely adore this ban, because in yesterday's game for Vitality, they immediately picked this Ornn. Cabochard gets preference. He has been that standout player on Vitality in this recent season. And the Ornn obviously works well into MFs, and considering Aphelios is gone, it kind of is a champion that you do want to be looking to ban out, because you're not essentially immediately targeting the bot laners that are optioned, but you're taking out the combo part with them, and I do like them banned. So we jumped straight into the first pick phase, and yet again Vitality preference their top laner, locking in that set for Cabochard, that very, very bulky and disruptive champion, getting locked in. Obviously works well into MF comps as well. You just essentially ult on top of the lockdown bullet timing MF, not giving her a chance to escape as she can't really move while she's casting that ult. And yeah, very, very good champion that you can just carry over into a team fight. Now, as for the response from SK, it's a decent one. In the Aatrox being locked in for them, in a sense, it gives them a good champion into the set. Obviously has that flank potential as a champion. Obviously you just hit your Q procs and do a lot of damage that way. Very, very good at locking down champions as well. And here's the champion that I'm not a fan of them locking in right now. They lock in the MF. Now I would have preferred this in their third pick here instead of the second, because you want Vitality to show you their bot laner first, and then you choose what you want. And if you lock in, say, the MF here, you're essentially saying, hey, you get a free Braum to counter her. That is what I don't like here. So if you lock in, say, a Braum or Tom Kench, you're at least then allowing your team a bit more freedom in the bot lane option you can pick up. It also puts Vitality in a bad situation to what they can pick up. And in a sense, Vitality get a free Braum to counter that MF, which is very huge. Obviously, you put up your wall, and she can't do as much as she wants to with that bullet time. And they also lock in a very, very mobile bot laner who has a lot of scaling that you see in the Ezreal. Obviously, you're landing them Qs to poke out the enemies, and if you get an empowered Q from your W, yikes, the opponents are pretty much chunked. It's very hard to deal with, especially when you build up that mana. You're going to be dangerous to deal with. And here's the last pickup in this first pick phase for SK, and it's going to be the Sejuani. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this pickup here. You could have locked in your support so that you're obviously playing a safer lane with that MF, like a Tom Kench or even a Thresh who can lantern her away. But instead you pick up your Sejuani jungle, and unless you're going to be banning out junglers predominantly in your second ban phase, I do not like this pickup here. It could have come later into the draft, and there were far better options for junglers here. So we get into the final ban phase here, and SK do ban out a jungler in their first ban, but I do believe it is the wrong jungler entirely. As we look at the actual Vitality draft right now, they're predominantly AD. Why would you ban out an Olaf in this situation? Yeah, he's very strong early game. Yeah, he has a lot of roam and can easily counter gank with his Q procs. He can jungle freely for the start. He doesn't need a leash. He's one of them champions that is very, very good. But you've got an Elise. You've got a Gragas still on the table. Yes, the Karthus was banned, but you've still got two predominant AP junglers who are going to be priorities probably for Vitality to pick up, who can absolutely demolish your team, especially considering you've locked in an MF. If they lock in the Gragas, that's another disruptive tool to stop her ulting. And it kind of does make it hard for you to play into this team if you're drafting this badly, honestly. Now, Vitality do ban out a Thresh and a Syndra, which are two nice bans. I do like these bans. Thresh obviously is that support that can save the MF from teamfights, especially if she gets knocked up by a Brommel or even carried away by Set. You just put the lantern to the destination of where she's going to be travelled to by the Set in that suplex, and she can get out a bit freely. It's kind of terrible how SK played this draft. Now, the Thresh, I do like that ban. Syndra is another one of those champions that I love the ban of, because she's another combo champion into or with the MF. You just scatter of the weak, and wherever the scatter of weak goes, it's the same sort of cone shape ability to the MF ult that it's very, very nice that they ban her out. Now, the last ban here from SK is that LeBlanc ban, and she is obviously very, very good. Obviously, the burst damage that she can do. If you look at the TSM versus 100 Thieves game from yesterday, you'll have noticed that she managed to burst out Broken Blade around team fights around the Drake pretty easily, and it essentially meant that she was able just to eliminate him from fight, making the fight pretty much over and done with. And yeah, she is a very, very good champion and a good ban. So yeah, that was one of the only good bans I've said so far for SK. So we get into the last picks here for each team, the final four, and we see here for SK the Nautilus lock-in. Now, I don't know about you, but the Tom Kench is still open. You see the draft that Vitality have built for themselves, and they have so many options really to stop and kill your MF or any of your like squishy targets that do a lot of damage. So I would have preferred the Tom Kench pick here, even if Nautilus is good at stopping, say, flanks by dredge lining and depth charging him, as well as being able to lock up the squishy members of Vitality, which is a okay pick. It's not the best in my opinion. As for Vitality, they also add a secondary win condition to their game with the Rise. Obviously, a very, very predominant and very, very strong team fighter with the spell casting that he can do. Obviously, just maximizing the spams of abilities. But he's also very good at split pushing. You can just sit out on a lane, push it out, realm warp all the minions that you've used to push that wave over to another lane, and it's kind of hard for the enemies to keep up with your push, and very, very strong in terms of AP power. Now, the last pickup here for Vitality, I absolutely adore. It's more disruption. It's another AP champion, giving a very, very strong lineup and team fighting lineup for Vitality in the Gragas. This champion is very, very good. Essentially, you just press in a fight on top of the MF if Set can't get in. Say if Nautilus has stopped him from running in and ulting her, you just place the cask on top of her and it separates her from the team. Boom, she's dead. That's probably a one team fight. Very, very nice pickup. And as for the responsive pick here for the mid lane of SK, they go for the Azir. Now, I like this champion in a sense that it obviously is a champion that can push away the engage of Vitality with that Shurima Shuffle. You have the mobility, and obviously you want a champion that can move between lanes quite easily in the mid lane. If we look at this current meta, that is how people are playing, are going between lanes to affect other lanes and be absolutely dominant in them. And yeah, it's a good champion to be able to do that with them sand soldiers and the ability to move between them with abilities. So yeah, I do like that. It's still not the best draft for me though from SK in comparison to how Vitality have drafted. So yeah, you can kind of see how Vitality won this game from just the pick ban phase. So, the team fight we're going to be breaking down today takes place just after SK's Baron that they snuck away with two members has run out, and they've just pushed up the mid wave, and Gragas for Vitality decides to push out of into his jungle towards his chicken camp and decides to start taking him. Now, with this being the Ocean Rift, SK used the extended brushes to notice out this Gragas. So, how do SK try and punish this overstepping Gragas? Well, firstly, they launch a three-pronged attack. Sejuani jumps over the wall, launching her Glacial Prism at the Gragas and hitting him, stunning him up. Aatrox steps forward out of the brush, looking to hit his sweet spot Qs and deal a ton of damage. And Nautilus also steps up to join the fight and hit a load of CC. Now, chilling in that brush was Set, and he has probably one of the best kits to lock up and brawl in close quarters. Moreover, alongside him was Braum, another good close quarters champion who can also lock up champions. And these two work in tandem here very, very nicely as Set pulls in the three members with his face breaker, and Braum hits them up with his ultimate at the same time, creating such a big CC chain that the Sedge, who then gets immediately hit by a point-blank haymaker from the Set, gets absolutely bursted down and is forced to stopwatch. All while this is happening, Gragas has actually popped his own stopwatch and has avoided any of the follow-up that SK have looked to deal to him. All while Sedge is in her stopwatch, MF unleashes a very, very late ultimate into the team fight, barely scraping the back part of Vitality, and in a sense they just back off down towards their bot lane, and essentially Sejuani is left alone with no team members around her from either side, and Vitality realise this, and because Sedge is so low, they decide to re-engage. Now Gragas launches a Hail Mary cast but at the Sedge and essentially just blows her up at that point. As well as this, the Ryze, who was in the bot lane split pushing, has roamed up, and with a what I believe to be a fairly unique rune page, as I believe it has got Scorch on it, just tags up the Aatrox with 2 spells, and the burn damage from what I have to believe is Scorch kills off the Aatrox. Now, with a mass man disadvantage, SK Gaming decide to hightail it up the river away from the Vitality lineup. However, Vitality have that one tool that allows them to continue the chase and catch on to the remaining members of SK Gaming. And that tool is Ryze's Realm Warp, and they position this perfectly as it's placed directly on top of SK's Nautilus, giving them that extra kill in the team fight, as well as a substantial win that leads them to a second tier turret and also a lot more priority around the Drake pit. So, what did I make of this game? Well, I honestly felt that this was probably one of the closest games we're going to see this season. Yes, both these teams are bottom of the leaderboard and quite rightly should be down there, because A, they have not really been performing at all this season, and granted this was Vitality's first win this year, you could kind of tell that they should be bottom of the barrel. Like, I do like some of the decisions that SK made during this game though. Like that 2-man Baron play where they snuck it away from Vitality was very, very good. However, they didn't use it fully to the advantage. Like, in a sense, they used it, got a few turrets here and there, and then when it ran out, they gave away the lead back to Vitality and then threw away the game because they were in such an irrecoverable position, because when they decided to make this team fight, it was as the next dragon was spawning, it was as the team was set up, it was quite poor, and honestly, the map was essentially going to be played by Vitality no matter what. They were always going to have the split push threat, and it kind of came to fruition when SK threw away this fight and kind of gave the game over quite freely to Vitality. But that's how every game goes, and that's how this Anarchy analysis is going to end. If you enjoyed it, leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new around here or if you want to, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.